set. I'm just hoping that it does what I want it to. So far the water seems to be getting it to do what I want it to do. The biggest advantage to this material I've seen so far is that, and they call it lightweight, and it is. I mean, you're doing a big mold like this, and it is definitely lightweight compared to plaster. I'm still thinking for smaller molds that plaster might be the way to go, just because it's do it in one batch on a small mold. You don't need to reinforce it with hemp or anything. But for a big piece like this, especially if you're having to manhandle it while trying to pour a casting or do a slush casting where you're tilting it around, the lightweight aspect definitely is a positive. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep video recording stuff. I don't know if there's any real interest. I don't know. I've posted this and a few people seem to have looked at it, but I don't know if it's too much of a hassle. So to the right of what I'm working on here is an example of what I call an open-faced mold. It's just basically, imagine taking a sculpture, gluing it to a board, building a box around it, and then pouring rubber over it. Pretty much the quickest, most basic, fastest way to make a mold. This mold is going to act a lot like that. Well, exactly like that, just bigger. It really makes it easy to pour material into the mold. No pour spouts or anything like that. But when you get big like this, you start using a lot of material, and it becomes a cost issue. Silicone rubber is not cheap. It's not really a big deal for anything, I don't know, about the size of a, up to the size of a tennis ball or anything like that. But when you start getting into things the size of a football, suddenly the cost of rubber really becomes a consideration. So I'm going to go ahead and use up all this material that I mixed. When I get back from the Super Bowl party, I can see how secure it is, and if I might not have to build this up again. That'd be great if I could just call this done, because I plan on going ahead and making a master casting of this piece, just kind of to keep it as an archival hard copy in case the mold goes bad. I can always make another mold of it. So I'm gonna, before I deliver this to the foundry, I'm gonna make a resin casting. I'm thinking right now I'm gonna do a hollow cast, so it's gonna be a slush cast, and then I'll laminate fiberglass fiber, basically in between, sandwiching it in between two batches of resin. So that's my plan. So do that, get a nice casting of it, clean it up, and deliver the mold to the foundry so they can start doing some wax castings to get the floss wax process started. I've got to have 2 of these made for a client. I'm probably going to go ahead and have a 3rd one made for, in case anybody else wants one. So I think I mentioned in the other video, I usually don't do tests on actual projects that either are a commission or for something that has a deadline. But kind of the nature of this, I knew what I was getting myself into. I'd also read all the spec work and on the product, and it was it sounds like it's pretty much designed for this application. So I just went for it. Normally I'll do a test, small test sample of something, but I really needed to get this thing done and out the door. I got too many other things I'm working on. For the ring for this piece, I went ahead and actually did a typical box mold. This is the mold here, where you attach a pour spout, build a box around it. I had a discussion with the foundry, and I'm finding myself experimenting with wax. That wax is a bit of a different beast because it cools as it hits the mold. So when you're doing resin like this, you would typically try to create a vent, imagine irrigating, so that when you pour in, there's a place for the air to escape. They didn't want that, because whenever you pour wax, you pour it into the mold, you do this, and then you pour wax out of the mold, let it cool up a little bit, pour a bit more to build up the thickness. So this mold was built specifically for wax casting and doing lost wax for the foundry. And this is the open face mold I was talking about. So I just glued this part to a board, built a box around it. Didn't do any of the brush on, actually did a full-blown just solid pour, which is fine for bas relief. So for this mold here, I'm going to be doing something similar, but due to the size of it, instead of pouring it solid, I'll be pouring resin in kind of the way I described the wax, and I'll be tilting it around. I'll probably take a brush and brush it up to the edges so I have full coverage. That's usually called the detail pour. And then keep an eye on it while it's setting. You kind of feel it, touch it. As soon as it's cured up and still tacky, that's usually when you want to go in and do a successive pour afterwards. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, and I'll let everybody know what the results are of this. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.